we're all making different decisions in recruitment or enrollment, study design, data generation, and data analysis. And while the data we generate may help us answer a very directed question, and we may then put that data into an open database that allows others to look at it, there are many fundamental questions for which we are simply underpowered to study ourselves, and because we're all going through the process of generating data separately, it's very difficult to combine data across sources in an effective manner to answer those big questions. So I come to this work where I'm looking to help scientists think of better and collaborative ways to answer these bigger questions that are not capable of being answered by individual labs because of my own experience. And so what I'm showing you here is some work that I did over what felt like an exceedingly long period of time, looking for pharmacogenetic associations for statin-induced toxicities. And so the approach that we took here was to start at the molecular level, looking at statin-induced changes in transcriptional architecture in a series of several hundred cell lines, and then based on the genetic findings there, to take that to the clinical level to look at how those genetic associations of interest may in fact affect clinical outcomes. And so I was able to identify a loci that was associated with statin-induced myopathy, and to replicate that across several findings. Now, one of the issues with statin-induced myopathy is that there are many, many ways to define this, right? It's a large continuum, this phenotype, right? It can go from a mild complaint of muscle weakness or pain all the way through to severe rhabdomyolysis. And so how one defines that in clinical research is very much dependent on the population you're looking at. So, within days of publishing this work, we were contacted by several groups who had their own studies where they had defined statin-induced myopathy actually quite differently, who failed to replicate this finding. And so what I can say is, what this means on the clinical level is that this association is, if it exists, is weak enough that it doesn't replicate easily across phenotypes, and we probably aren't going to be using it to do any pharmacogenetic testing in the clinic. But what it made me realize as a scientist was that medical advances are only capable of arising when we as a community can come together to evaluate the data that exists and come to some consensus as to what it means. And that's often very difficult to do. Now, in data science, there's been an increasing set of new initiatives and progress that has allowed us to start to think about doing some of these things. And those include the pervasiveness of network information. There are large databases of data, of knowledge, of insights that one can use. There are new tools coming out that help us to synthesize and understand those things. There's also this amazing thing, the cloud infrastructure. So now we can create centralized spaces where we can collaborate and share across institutes in ways that just really weren't possible 10 years ago. There's this wonderful movement, which we term the democratization of data, which is to say that patients themselves are becoming increasingly interested in seeing their data shared and used broadly by many, and they're getting more involved in the process of making sure that happens. Well, as before, you sign an informed consent, which may or may not say something about how the data can be used outside of the original hypothesis, and that ends up limiting our capabilities as scientists to use that data moving forward, because you want to respect the wishes and intents of the patients themselves. We now see patients coming up and saying, actually, I gave of this data and I want it to be used as much as it possibly can be. And we see that both the funders and the public are pushing for greater sharing. So Sage Bionetworks is a nonprofit research organization. We've been around for almost a decade at this point. We were founded by Stephen Friend, who is a pediatric oncologist who was at the time working at Merck, who saw that the kinds of questions that he wanted to answer about heterogeneity in disease and how that might affect treatment decisions was simply not something that he at Merck or anyone else was able to answer with the data that they were capable of generating themselves. And it was only through creating a neutral party where the data could start to be combined that we could start to get enough data to answer some of these questions. And so SAGE has worked through the years to build out infrastructure and approaches that enable scientists, originally in the field of oncology, but we have moved past that at this point, to start to work together where that makes the most sense in the identification of appropriate research.